What's going on, fanatics? Happy Saturday morning to you all. Getting ready to head up to Hilton Coliseum here before too long. Looking forward to it. We'll look at today's game once some of y'all start to file in here, and I'll take some questions from you and all of that good stuff. I hope you're having a good Saturday. Iowa State and Missouri today, kind of a weird game where it kind of feels like a conference game, but it's clearly not. You know the drill. Real quick, before I dig into it, let's thank our friends from the Iowa Clinic.
So, my life gets crazy with Brooke and Blake and a husband that works 80 hours a week. And I decided to start my own business on top of it, which is insanely crazy. But thanks to the Iowa Clinic, they made it easy to see my doctor. And when I get there, she listens. So I feel like I have a partner. And before you know it, I can get back to my crazy busy, insanely busy life where I have a busy business, busy husband, and busy twins. Oh no, where's Brooke? There she is. Care how you want it. Visit iowaclinic.com.
All right. Thanks to our friends at the Iowa Clinic. Iowa State and Missouri today. Again, I would like to take your guys' questions if you want to file some in. They can be about really anything Iowa State. Let's be honest. I'm going to answer it. Ask me anything. Missouri's a weird team. I don't know how much you guys have paid attention to them thus yet. I mean, their analytics, if you just look at their profile, they're not a very impressive roster. But I would make the point that you can't solely look at that. If you did, you would go, wow, Missouri's lost 4 of its last 5. Now, let me dig a little deeper. They just took the top-ranked team in the country to the wire on Tuesday, lost by a point. And then they were at Alabama. I mean, I'm a big Nate Oates guy. They're 19 in Ken Palm, and took Alabama to the wire on the road. Played a really tough game. They lost by 10, but I would argue that the game was a lot closer than that. So my point being, okay, so it's like a 10.5 point spread, 10-point spread, whatever it is today. I just don't think Iowa State's good enough to look past anybody at this level. They're good, but the style that Iowa State plays is very conducive to close games. Not to make this about like a gambling thing, but I wouldn't bet on Iowa State to beat anybody by 10 points. Anybody at the D1 level like this. Missouri, listen, they're 8-11. I think is what they are right now. Yeah, but they play teams well. I mean, really the only blowout that they've had this year, they got killed at Arkansas, but everything else has been really close games since the turn of the calendar. So, I mean, I'm anticipating that today. One little note, a longtime Fred Hoiberg guy, Cornell Mann is still on the coaching roster there at Missouri, so he'll have his team, prepared for Hilton Coliseum. Yeah, James points out a really good point. And I should lean on guys like James and you old timers. Sorry, buddy. I love you. But this is I remember when Missouri was in the Big 12. I was not around for the Norm Stewart days and the iconic matchups with Johnny Orr. A little nostalgia for some guys like James, I'm sure, in the building today. I won't feel that as much. I mean, the way I look at it, and this sucks, and I hate that I've become this jaded, but I just have. We screwed ourselves, not Iowa State, but just the sport in general, when we lost all these great rivalries. I don't even miss them because it's like, it saddens me more than anything. I think I miss Nebraska more than I miss the Missouri rivalry, but whatever. It is what it is. College athletics are going in a negative direction when it comes to that. Would you rather play? Hell, we're going to be in a conference with Central Florida instead of Missouri and Nebraska. That doesn't make any sense, but the almighty greed. And that's on Missouri and Nebraska's part, the way that they did it, right? But, yeah, I mean, there will be nostalgia in the building today. I'm glad that when we play in this SEC thing that you get Missouri. I'd rather play them than Mississippi State. I think it's a lot more interesting, to James's point, because he's right. Norm Stewart and Johnny Orr had epic battles um, throughout the years. Let's talk to Chad, who, yeah, on Tyrese Hunter. I think when I watched that game back the other night for a second time, I think my biggest takeaway from that second half is that I think Hunter can really use that to grow up. Not that he wasn't grown up. I actually think he plays like a junior right now. Freshmen need some bumps in the road, and I like the fact that he got some and he bounced back immediately. Had the bad turnover, and then he has the great take in overtime to the basket. You know, Iowa State's getting a little bit standing around on offense, and Hunter puts it on the floor with the jam, breaking that up, and that's big time. That's big time. I thought he grew up a lot in the second half. I was really, really impressed with that. Let's see. John, Mr. Belding. I'm sure you haven't gotten that before. Maybe, yeah. I think that Iowa State might press some more. We've seen TJ slap that thing on quite a bit here lately. And you point out Missouri's turnover issues, and that's really where I see a massive advantage for Iowa State today. Missouri's turnover rate is ranked 310th in the country. That is awful. Iowa State's defensive turnover rate ranked 5th. Ding, ding, ding. That's the key to the basketball game today, folks. Iowa State needs easy buckets. We don't want to be doing any of that standing around and launching threes like you did against TCU. Attack on defense. Thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate that kind comment. We love covering the Cyclones. That's what we, other than my princesses upstairs, that's what I live for, baby. I ain't going nowhere. All right, what else do we got here? Justin, personnel matchups today for Iowa State versus Missouri. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm not like this expert on Missouri, but I will say they've got a 6'5" point guard that could possess a few problems just because he's a 6'5" point guard. Iowa State, not exactly a long basketball team. They're not small, but his name is Jaron Coleman. Keep an eye on him. That is and Tyrese is going to get this his whole career because he's not exactly long. I would guess that Gabe Kalsher and Isaiah Brockington have a lot of the assignment on him defensively, but that would be the one that stands out to me when I profiled this Missouri team is long guards. Javon Pickett would be another one. He's 6'5". He's a senior. Their posts are 6'9" and 6'8", so nothing that Iowa State, hasn't seen before. Although Kobe Brown is a massive basketball player. He's really, really good. The 6'9" junior. So he will challenge Iowa State's posts, no doubt. Concerns me that George Condit could get into foul trouble against Kobe Brown, but that's kind of the case of what happens all the time, right? And George stayed out of foul trouble against Oklahoma State, by golly, and the Cyclones won. They are a significantly better basketball team when George Condit is on the floor. But the problem is he's not on the floor enough, and that's something that really needs to be addressed down the stretch. Okay, John, about George Condit standing in the high post with the ball and not driving to the hoop. Well, I mean, I know what you're saying because I watch him in the high post often, and I'm like, what are you doing? But it's by design. They're not trying to run the offense through George Condit, unfortunately for George. That's set up to get your guards more open with off the ball action. If George can put the ball on the floor and attack, great. He hasn't really proven in his career to be that type of player, would be my answer to that. Now, we've seen a little baby hook from him. Can you get him to to that point, right, where you're getting him the ball and those type of actions. That's a lot more attractive to me than George Condit driving to the floor. Just being honest. Real quick shout out. Check this out. How sick is this new shirt? Cyclone Fanatic store. Mike outdid himself with this one. Old school Psy dribbling the basketball. Phenomenal. I'm fired up about it. I like the old school stuff, and I want to keep pounding that in our Cyclone Fanatic store in the future. You can go to cyclonefanaticshop.com right now. I think that's our website. Give me a second. Yeah, cyclonefanaticshop.com. We've got all the new vintage Psy things on there. Really cool. Let me sorry, I don't know how to post it in here. But it's really cool stuff. You guys should go check it out. You're supporting a couple of small local businesses when you go to cyclonefanaticshop.com. All right, David. Let me ask you this, David, about Iowa State's offense being predictable. What would you suggest with this personnel? And honestly, you should write back to me right now. What would you suggest Iowa State does offensively? It's got to go through the defense, guys. That's how this team's built. This team isn't an elite offensive team. It's never going to be. It wasn't when Iowa State was 12-0. They scored 47 points against Jackson State. They don't have the skill players to be running. Yeah, I appreciate your answer, David. Thank you. They don't. This is why we talk about creating live ball turnovers and score, right? Like, because you don't have. This isn't a, hey, give Royce the ball at the top of the key and let him work. Like, we don't have a guy like that. This is why the mid-range assassin, Isaiah Brockington, is constantly taking shots a foot inside the three-point line. It isn't who they are, and they're not going to all of a sudden be this elite offensive team all of a sudden in March. It's not going to happen. So it's got to go through your defense, and that's why TJ talks about it all the time. And I wholeheartedly agree with him after watching the team for months like we all have now. They're not an elite offensive team. They're never going to be one. So we need to embrace them as a defensive juggernaut, and they need to do that too. And they need to bring that today because I think their worst two defensive games of the year have been the last two. That's a fact. So they got to bring that today, force a ton of live ball turnovers against Missouri. That's how you beat this team by double digits. They're not guys, and I get it. We've watched such elite offensive basketball for so long here. That is not this team. It's not going to be this team. But they've got to be able to execute, right? And I think that may be what you're getting into, David. When you've got the open three in the corner, you've got to be able to hit that. And these guys, I mean, they showed you again on what was it, Wednesday night, that they're very capable of it. But it's got to run through the defense. It just has to. That's the only way this team's going to really be consistent with those offensive numbers. And I agree completely with what John just posted right here. Half court offense has not been good. It is what it is. I don't think they're ever going to be great in that capacity. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. When I watch the team, I don't see a team that's like, oh man, they just need a few more reps. No, I don't. I just think it's who they are. Anyways, I do like Iowa State to win today. I would not bet on this game at all. I mean, because if you turn Missouri over enough, like, you could very easily cover it. But you just don't know. Like, Missouri's, again, they're not great on paper, but they play good teams well, and they've proven that time and time again this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a nerve-wracking game at the end. I hope I'm wrong. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all joining me here on Iowa Clinic pregame. Jared Stansberry will have full coverage today. And I'm actually going to sit in the crowd. I'm looking forward to it. Going with some friends and yell loud. Shout out to all of you for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Saturday.